The Choose Your Own Adventure series is definitely the longest running and the most influential game book series of them all. To this day, if you want to explain to somebody what a game book is, you tell them it's kind of like a Choose Your Own Adventure. And then you can add, maybe it has game mechanics. But the general idea remains the same. A branching story where you experience different kinds of variants of possibilities. And the series has been so influential that it's not surprised that it has had many books written in the same style, but really without permission, off-brand, so to speak, variants. I thought for a while to call this genre parodies, but I don't think that's quite accurate because many books written in the style or in the format of Choose Your Own Adventure, but for adults, they're not exactly parodies. The original series, by the way, the original run from the late 70s to the late 90s was so weird itself. I don't know that you could really make a parody of that. Think of You're a Shark. I don't know how you can make a parody of this book. It's unparodiable because they're just so weird. Nevertheless, in the 21st century, when some of the original readers have become adults, a genre developed of what I think of Choose Your Own Adventure-like books for adults. They use the general idea of Choose Your Own Adventure, very often some of the graphics, some of the visual cues, but they fill the content of the tree. They fill the tree with different content. Very often, again, that's the point, that aimed at adults. So today I'm going to show you some of my favorite Choose Your Own Adventure-like books for adults. And doesn't have to be a top 8, but I guess it kind of is, but in no specific order. So the idea of taking the branching tree and adding adult content to it, as far as I know, chronologically, the first to do so was the so-called A Date with Destiny series, with only 2 books coming out, but it was the really early 2003, I believe, with Night of a Thousand Boyfriends by Miranda Clark, 2003, and Escape from Fire Island by James H. English. Is that a real name? I don't know. So they're basically romantic books, and in one of them you are a young woman who is trying to date, and the other one you're a gay man caught into various kinds of adventure as well. They're simple, there's no game mechanics, they're light, and especially this one has a chick lit kind of feel to it. Remember, 2003, that was pretty big. And so you'll go on different dates, or you'll have different kind of gay encounters. And the tone, for example, here is a little more surreal. Because there's an invasion of zombie drag queens that you had to deal with. Here, there's still some branching stories in which your dates will land you in very strange places and positions. But the general sense that these are light and fun, but of course they have, again, an element of eroticism that is maybe more appropriate for adult readers. So are they parodies or, again, simply a Choose Your Own Adventure book written for, incidentally, some early readers who were young adults by 2003? The idea of having a Choose Your Own Adventure with an unusual theme also then surfaces in Scooby-Doo versus the Cult of Cthulhu by Kurt Cave, if that's how you pronounce it. You are a hound of Carcosa, so you're a strange animal. Again, see, is that a parody or just the next logical step from You're a Shark? You are a hound of Carcosa, you have been transported to our world, and you, of course, you hate the Cult of Cthulhu, that kind of competition, who likes it? And so you're going and try to fight them. You make decisions, you make choices. It's very tongue-in-cheek. You're going to have a lot of jokes about the pop culture, a lot of meta jokes, like in a choice, if you do something that is, say, safe, the book calls you a chicken and insults you and makes fun of you. Then you take the brave option and you die horribly. So there's no real good option there. Speaking of not real good options, or not a lot of them, that's kind of like a theme of some of these choose your own adventure like things for adult. They're very grim and they give you a lot of negative options. For example, think of Super Monster Time, that is supposed to be part of the choose your own mind flark adventure fest. Yeah, I'm not going to show you the actual full name of the series because then the algorithms will never show this video. Super Giant Monster Time by Jeff Burke, also the author of the linear but remarkable novel Shatner Quake. If you haven't read that one, that's a good one. But it's not a game book. As for game book, in Super Giant Monster Time, the city is being attacked by the kaiju, by several kaiju. I'm not even going to show you the illustrations because some of those are really weird, and part of the fun is in discovering them. You can play as one of 3 characters. That means you have 3 different entry points. You can play as a super cool punk rock chick with a massive mohawk, or as a boring office worker, or as a scientist at a mysterious Complex 23. The kaiju are attacking. You can be one of these 3 people, which basically splits the book into 3 separate mini game books. But maybe there are ways of connecting some of the stories. Who knows? Who knows? But there is a very strong sense of grotesque situations. You also have some interesting randomizers, sometimes based on drawing a card or flipping a coin or rolling a die, which adds to the interest and the unpredictability of the story. But again, you can expect a lot of adult situations and a lot of gory, horrible deaths. And this is Super Giant Monster Type. What's another way of adding or filling the tree of choices with content that hadn't been done before is in the most boring book ever written, which is a game book. And they went where no other choose your own adventure like book had gone before, which is daily life. So you play as a retired fighter pilot who has now become a civilian pilot. You're 40-something, and you have the perfect bourgeois middle-class utopia. And so it's about your morning as you wake up and you get ready to go to work, and you decide choices such as hitting the snooze button, or using your wife's pink brush, or flossing or not flossing. Things like that. You make completely trivial choices about your morning on your way to work. And yet, because the choices are so trivial and the text goes so deeply... Oh, I should have mentioned the authors. Here they are. Well, you can read the names. The choices are so trivial, and there's this like really strong detail attention to every single detail. After a while, there's a strange sense of uneasiness, or like a mounting dread, like there may be something more going on, some deeper, darker things going on. And that sense, incidentally, is what makes this, to me, a very interesting book. Not boring at all. And that's why, if it were just about a game book with trivial choices, it would have been a one-trick pony. By the second choice, I would have been like, okay, got it. I choose whether I'm going to eat cereals or not. Who cares? And yet, I kept reading and discovering multiple endings, and it turned out to be that this is not the most boring book ever written. Definitely not the most boring game book ever written. What else hasn't been done in Choose Your Own Adventure? Branching autobiography. Oh, somebody famous finally. Neil Patrick Harris. He's such a charismatic guy that I like him, although I don't really know his work. I know he's famous from many TV shows that I haven't seen. He's a host of so many things on TV that I haven't seen. I think the only thing I actually legit saw with him was the Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, and that's fun. This is one of my favorite modern game books because it's such an unusual idea that it's a branching autobiography. So it's based on his own life, episodes of his own life, but you are him, the you of Gamebooks over the decade. Over the decades, you guest star on episodes of more than a dozen different shows, that kind of thing. You are him, so you're playing like him. And maybe there's a little bit of a parody today of everybody wanted to become famous, everybody wanted to be a famous person. You get to be him in this book. Some of the episodes are probably or most likely true. Some other ones are patently false, and the prose kind of makes it clear I'm making this up as I go because it's super fun. There are passages in which he tells you about the food that he likes, the drinks that he likes, so there are recipes built into the branching thing. And so if you like him as a guy and you want to know autobiography, I think you can still get information like you would get from any other autobiography. But other from the fact that I like him for no other reason that I like him, so I wasn't looking for that historical information, I found this to be an extremely enjoyable and entertaining game book. Maybe it even has a secret section. Who knows? Who knows? Now, our game books is not just our choose your own adventure like for adults. They can also be innovative, not just in the content, but also structurally. And so actually my non-top 2 positions of my non-top 8 choose your own like game for adults. Anyways, I really like the ones that experiment with structure as well. And so I'm gonna now tell you about Star Wench by Anna Anthropy. Real name? Who knows? Only book in the Choose Your Own Death series. You are the Star Wench on the title, and you and your pal of Susie Starbright are going out there in space to try to defeat the Queen of Space. Spoiler alert, and you'll know that from the warning, you ain't gonna do it. You ain't gonna make it. You're gonna fail. But how you're gonna fail, and this is the structural innovation, the book is 100 sections and there are 100 endings. So basically the only choice is here. You're told you're trying to do this mission, and your initial choice, you only have one choice among 100 possibilities. Basically you open the book, choose a number. You said 39? Excellent. And so then you read that one. So you choose a number, you open randomly, and each is an ending. Is this a game book? Well, I think it is, because it has a starting point, a branching point. The branching point happens to have 100 possible options, and they all happen to be endings. No rules against that. There are some romantic game books from the 1980s that had a long prose narrative and a single point of departure, and then 2 endings. So that was the same structure as this one, only this one has 2. This one has 100. And they're fun, grotesque, a bit sexy, and again, it's for adults. The art, it's several artists with very different styles, and it's just fun and ridiculous. And again, I would have just opened 1 or twice if there was no interest in the content, just interested in the structure. But some of these stories are just mini stories, mini narratives of how you die in different circumstances are very entertaining. My favorite choose your own book like for adults, however, now change the tone because it's very serious. Actually, it's very serious, and it shows that you can employ that format to have really fun and entertaining stories. All those I pointed out, they have an element of fun, but it can also be very serious and talk about very serious stuff. There's a book by an anonymous author. We don't know who wrote it. Probably a guy, because the text says it's autobiographical and depicts the story of a man who is in a codependent relationship with a woman who is an alcoholic, and so probably is a guy telling us his stories, but so the protagonist is a guy. And the title is Love is Not Constantly Wondering If You Are Making the Big Mistake of Your Life. See how the graphic is definitely similar to Choose Your Own Adventure and makes it look like this is the title, but the title is much longer. And the warning that you have at the beginning, it looks like a Choose Your Own Adventure warning graphically, but it actually tells you your choices don't matter. You can read this book straight through the beginning to the end if you want to. The opposite of Choose Your Own Adventure, they tell you don't read in the ending. So if you want, read from page 1 to page the last. These pages contain one adventure by the time you, a guy who doesn't care for drinking, dating an alcoholic. And that's the idea. The sections are not numbered by page, but they're numbered by dates. So actually, and you can read it, it's a linear diary that goes from August 1st, 2002, followed by August 6th, followed by August 8th. So they are a diary. You could just read it completely linearly. However, you also have choices that tell you if you do such and such, go to April 5, 2006. If you choose something else, go to November 13, 2005. Now, you already know from the way the book is printed and from the warning that that doesn't matter. Your choices to jump from one day to the other is not going to change what happens. It's just going to change how you perceive it. So it looks like a character. There's a sense of inevitability in this story, a sense of that what you do doesn't matter. And I believe that's meant to capture the sense of being in a codependent relationship, being trapped in a psychological situation where you can't find a way out and where you feel that you're making choices and nothing really matters. Then it's mirrored by this system of branching choices. Yes, you have a real choice of going to this page or to that page. But although it's a real choice, they don't have an impact that is long-lasting and meaningful. So that's a very powerful situation, very powerful construction there. Also, the surreal thing is that the text describes this very realistic, very sad, very grim situations of being in a codependent relationship. However, the illustrations, you may have noticed, they have to do with science fiction, and they have to do with a war against the giant ants, which is a theme that we have in several Choose Your Own Adventures. The images are science fiction, and the choices also, they seem to come from another book entirely. So, for example, maybe you have a scene that just describes a completely realistic situation, and your choices, if you decide to confront the evil Power Master, you may remember this one from a Choose Your Own Adventure, turn to October 13, 2002. If you decide to see and weigh what he does, turn to the next page. If you tell the other captives to follow you into the cave of the Ant Warrior nutrient pools, turn to August 18. If you'd rather have them follow you in the whole discarded carapaces, turn to December. So the branching choices that you have also have nothing to do with the story. Or do they? Sometimes there are some analogical connections, but if you're in a situation, your girlfriend keeps drinking after she promises not to, you're not going to have a choice like you confront her or you don't. You're going to have something to do with the ends, with science fiction technology or time traveling, which again, I believe is meant to give us a sense of complete dissonance, a sense of powerlessness, of choices that don't really match what you would like to do, and it feels like you're trapped into either not having real choices or choices that don't matter. There's a powerful, deep, disturbing way of using the traditional branching format or Choose Your Own Adventure and create a very powerful experience. So this concludes my quick overview of some of my favorite Choose Your Own like books. What I'm going to do for reference, I'm going to show them to you so you can just pause the image, take a screenshot, do what you like. But I think this way you have a reference of the books that I mentioned. I think you should be able to see the titles. All right. Game books are fun, and maybe in the future, if there is interest, I'll take some more dives into specific sections of my game book collection.